Hi there. Are you holding your phone right now? Maybe even wearing your earphones? All these next-generation tech products rely on a substance that has recently become a global buzzword, yet one most people still know little about: rare earths. Smartphones, computers, electric vehicles, display screens, even medical imaging equipment like CT scanners and MRIs, they all depend on rare earths. The term rare earths refers to a group of 17 metallic elements, including scandium, yttrium, and the 15 lanthanides. Though these elements are widely distributed in the Earth's crust and not truly scarce, they are called rare because their chemical properties are so similar that separating and refining them is extremely difficult, technically demanding, and costly. In industry, rare earths are often described as the vitamins of industry or metallic seasonings used in small amounts, but dramatically improving alloy performance in strength, heat resistance, and magnetism. They are the invisible backbone that powers the core of countless high-tech products. Yet in today's global landscape, rare earths have become far more than industrial materials. They have evolved into strategic resources that influence energy transitions, military technology, and even geopolitical balance. And the country holding the dominant position in this field is China. Rare earths are like the magic dust of modern industry, granting technologies their superpowers. Add them to almost anything, and it becomes stronger, more efficient, or more durable. Their applications across key sectors are reshaping the global competitive order. Rare earths are not a single metal, but a family of elements with similar chemistry yet distinct uses. Based on atomic weight and properties, they are generally divided into light rare earths and heavy rare earths. Light rare earths such as neodymium, praseodymium, and lanthanum are mainly used in permanent magnets, camera lenses, and optical glass. Heavy rare earths like dysprosium and terbium, though scarcer and harder to refine, retain magnetic strength under high temperatures, making them indispensable for electric vehicles and wind turbines. In the clean energy sector, neodymium and praseodymium are key ingredients for new Feb-B magnets, powerful magnets commonly used in electric vehicle motors to boost efficiency and extend driving range. For instance, a Tesla Model 3 relies on high-performance rare earth magnets in its drive motor to sustain power and range. The same principle applies to wind power. A large offshore turbine may contain up to 3 tons of rare earth magnets. Heavy rare earths, like dysprosium and terbium, help prevent magnetic degradation in high-temperature conditions, extending the lifespan of equipment. Finally, in defense, rare earths are a foundation that no superpower can replace, and the reason they have become a geopolitical flashpoint. From radar systems and torpedoes to stealth fighters like the F-35, rare earth materials are essential. Even the guidance systems of U.S. Tomahawk cruise missiles depend on rare earth magnets for precision targeting. Without rare earths, a nation's defense industry could literally fall apart, and that's no exaggeration. As the world pushes toward net zero emissions and green energy transitions, global demand for rare earths is projected to surge by 400–600% over the coming decades. This growth will ignite a new wave of supply competition, turning rare earths from an invisible enabler into a core determinant of future energy and technological power. China's dominance in the rare earth industry is not merely a result of abundant resources. It stems from a long-term national strategy. As early as the 1982nd, Deng Xiaoping famously declared, "The Middle East has oil, China has rare earths." It wasn't just a slogan, it became a cornerstone of policy. China holds about 40% of the world's rare earth reserves, not an absolute majority. Countries like Brazil, Vietnam, and India also possess rich deposits. However, China's advantage lies not in mining, but in refining and separation, the midstream stage of production. Rare earth refining is highly complex and environmentally damaging, requiring massive amounts of chemicals and water. The process demands advanced technology, experience, and environmental tolerance. China mastered these techniques, supported by government policy, economies of scale, and relatively lax environmental regulations, developing over 90% of global refining capacity. In heavy rare earth refining, China's control reaches 99% of global capacity, meaning nearly every magnet used in wind turbines or EVs today contains Chinese technology or materials. Downstream, China's share of global rare earth magnet manufacturing reaches 93%. From mining to magnets, this full vertical integration grants China not only control over supply, but also pricing power in global markets. The barriers preventing Western nations from rebuilding their own rare earth supply chains are not just about lacking resources. They involve technology, environmental policy, and investment incentives. First, the environmental challenge. Refining rare earths involves solvent extraction and other highly polluting processes. Producing 1 ton of rare earth oxide can generate 2,000 tons of waste rock and toxic wastewater. For environmentally conscious Western nations, that means high costs and political resistance. By the 2000s, the US, Europe, and Japan had largely exited the refining sector, leaving the dirty and unpopular industry to China. For example, the Mountain Pass mine in California, once America's major rare earth source, was shut down in 2002 due to environmental and market factors, making the US almost entirely dependent on Chinese imports. Then there's the technological gap. China has spent decades mastering hydrometallurgical processes like solvent extraction, accumulating expertise and human capital. This allows Chinese producers to refine rare earths at roughly 1/3 the cost of their European counterparts. Even with raw ore in hand, Western firms struggle to refine it independently. As a result, many new mining projects still ship raw ores to China for processing, deepening dependence rather than reducing risk. Western countries may prefer high-value, low-pollution industries, but stringent environmental laws remain their biggest obstacle to catching up, regardless of investment. China's control of rare earths has shifted from an economic advantage to a geopolitical weapon. Over a decade ago, during a territorial dispute with Japan over the Diaoyu, Senkaku Islands, Beijing imposed a rare earth embargo on Japan. Within a year, global prices soared tenfold, marking the first time the West truly felt the strategic weight of rare earths. This year, China has gone further, tightening export restrictions not only on raw materials but also on related equipment and technology. One of the most controversial measures mirrors America's foreign direct product rule. Under the new rule, any global company whose rare earth magnets or semiconductor materials contain more than 0.1% Chinese rare earths or use Chinese mining or processing technologies must apply for export licenses from Beijing. The impact on the US is profound. Earlier this year, amid ongoing tariff battles where both sides traded hundreds of percentage points in duties, Washington barely flinched. But China's rare earth controls drew immediate concern. The U.S. Treasury Secretary publicly warned that Beijing was acting against the world and urged both nations to avoid mutual economic harm. The U.S. imports about 400 tons of rare earths from China each year, around 70% of its total imports for use in energy, automotive, telecommunications, medical, and especially defense industries. Foreign Policy magazine once reported that a single F-35 fighter jet requires roughly 400 kilograms of rare earths. Add in missiles, radar systems, and stealth materials, and it's clear, maintaining American military dominance depends on rare earths. In response to China's strategic monopoly, major economies have launched long-term efforts to de-risk their rare earth supply chains. Japan was the first to act. Just a month after the 2010 embargo, Tokyo allocated 100 yuan billion to launch a rare earth self-sufficiency plan, heavily investing in recycling and substitution technologies. In 2012, the US, EU, and Japan jointly filed a WTO complaint against China's export quotas and won the case in 2014, forcing Beijing to lift them in 2015. Still, rebuilding a rare earth supply chain is fundamentally a national strategic investment. Since 2020, the U.S. has invoked the Defense Production Act and other measures to fund domestic rare earth projects, offering long-term procurement contracts and financial guarantees. The goal? A vertically integrated supply chain from mining to magnet manufacturing. Australia's Lynas Corporation, the only non-Chinese company capable of large-scale heavy rare earth separation, is building a new processing plant in Texas, with U.S. government support, positioning Texas as a future rare earth processing hub. Amid China's latest export curbs, Washington and Canberra have signed new mining agreements, with U.S. funding backing Australia's extraction projects, a move to establish a China-free supply chain. However, creating independent, economically viable refining facilities will take years. In the long run, recycling and substitutes may prove key. Emerging clean extraction and zero-waste recycling technologies could bring disruptive innovation to the sector. Ultimately, the global race over rare earths is a test of technology, capital, and endurance. Every major power is striving to ensure that the invisible lifeblood of modern technology will no longer be held hostage by any single nation.